Naomi Brooks here, and I'm not starting this one like usual. Because tonight, while I'm driving, I keep thinking about one question. Why do some people walk into a room and the atmosphere changes before they even speak? Maybe that's been you. You thought you were just sensitive, too deep, too quiet, too different. What if it was evidence? Comment, "I feel it," if you've ever sensed there is something inside you that life has not been able to explain. Because in the next few minutes, we're not talking about who people said you were. We're going beneath the surface, into the part of you heaven recognized long before the world misunderstood you.
You have no idea who you really are, anointed and chosen. Your spirit carries more. Chosen one. Pause with me for a moment. Don't scroll yet. Don't rush past this like everything else the world throws in front of you. Stay here. Breathe. What you felt when this message reached you was not random. And I do not say that lightly. Haven't you noticed how certain words hit your spirit before your mind can even explain why? Something in you reacted the second your eyes landed here. Something deeper than emotion, deeper than curiosity, whispered, "Pay attention." And I have learned, both in scripture and in real life, that God often waits for the rare moment when a tired soul finally slows down enough to hear him. You may think you just happened to find this video, but I do not believe that. I believe you were led here more than you know. I believe a presence has been walking beside you for longer than you realized, guiding you through seasons you barely survive. And as I'm talking to you, with the road still moving outside my window, with ordinary streets passing by and the world carrying on like nothing sacred is happening, I want you to catch this clearly. The street is only the setting for this conversation. I'm simply driving and talking with you, heart to heart, because that is how God often meets us now. Not always in silence on a mountain, but in the middle of traffic, fatigue, headlines, pressure, and modern life. Isn't that where most of us are living anyway? You have been carrying so much in silence. You tried to stay strong for everybody else while your own heart was running low. You smiled through storms. You kept yourself together when no one checked on you. You fought private battles behind closed doors while still showing up in public like everything was fine. I know that kind of tiredness. I have seen it in people I love, and if I'm honest, I have felt versions of it myself. The kind that sleep does not fix. The kind where your body sits down, but your spirit still feels alert, burdened, watchful. That is why this message matters. You felt unseen, but you were never unseen. God saw the nights you cried without making a sound. He saw the moments you forced yourself to keep going when your soul was begging for rest. He saw every hurt you buried because you thought nobody would understand it. Every fear you tucked behind a calm face, every whispered prayer you released into the dark, wondering if heaven was listening. Heaven was listening. Psalm 34 says that the Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart. Not near to the polished, not near only to the people who look strong, near to the brokenhearted, near to the crushed in spirit. What if the very moments you thought were empty were actually the moments God was closest? For years you may have told yourself you were just coping, just handling life, just doing what you had to do. But that is not the whole truth. The truth is deeper, holier, and far more unsettling in the best way. You still do not fully know who you are. What you called resilience was often divine reinforcement. What you dismissed as intuition was spiritual discernment. What you thought was just inner strength was many times the hand of God carrying you through places your own feet could not have stood. Isaiah says that God giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. Now tell me, how many times did you stand back up when, by all human logic, you should have collapsed? How many times did you survive something you still cannot properly explain? Chosen one, your spirit has been active even when your body was tired. That is one of the reasons your journey has felt so heavy and so hard to put into words. You have been fighting unseen battles, carrying burdens that were not visible, sensing things before they unfolded, and grieving things you did not yet have language for. You have interceded without even realizing that is what you were doing. You have felt pain for people before they ever opened their mouths. You have walked into places and immediately known something was off. Why has that happened so often in your life if there is not something deeper going on? Why do some people call it overthinking, while your spirit knows it is not that at all? That is why your heart feels things before they happen. That is why people confide in you without fully knowing why they trust you. That is why you walk into a room and feel the atmosphere before a word is spoken. Scripture says in John chapter 10, "My sheep hear my voice. Hear that carefully." The voice comes before the explanation. The knowing comes before the evidence. The Spirit catches what the natural mind takes time to process. I have seen this in real life more times than I can count. I have had conversations with people who looked composed on the outside, successful even, and yet something in me knew they were one honest moment away from breaking. Later they told me everything. Maybe you know that feeling too. Maybe you have spent half your life sensing what other people were trying to hide. And instead of honoring that, people may have made you feel strange for it. Too sensitive, too intense, too serious, too affected. But what if you were not too much? What if you were perceiving more? What if heaven has been whispering over you for years, and darkness has been reacting to your calling before you ever learned how to name it? 1 John says, "Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world." Darkness does not fight emptiness that hard. It fights what carries light. It resists what carries oil. It presses hardest against what has purpose. You are not just watching a video. I believe you are waking up. And before we go deeper, I want you to respond to what is already moving inside you. If something stirred in your spirit when this began, if part of you is listening to me right now and quietly saying, "This is me," then type "I am chosen" in the comments. I mean that sincerely. This is not just engagement for the sake of a channel. Words matter. Agreement matters. There are moments when you need to stop absorbing truth silently and start answering it. Romans says that faith cometh by hearing, but there are also moments when hearing must turn into declaring. Why keep whispering about your identity in private when heaven has been speaking it over you openly? Let me tell you something that may finally make sense of years of exhaustion, confusion, and emotional weight you could never fully explain. Your body has been tired because your spirit has been working overtime. Even when you did not understand what you were sensing, your spirit knew more than your mind did. It has been standing guard. It has been discerning, praying, shielding, grieving, watching. Long before you had the right vocabulary, your spirit was already active. And I think many chosen ones suffer because they misread spiritual labor as personal weakness. They assume something is wrong with them, when in reality, something holy is happening in them. That is why there are days when your body feels drained, even though you did not do much in the natural. That is why your energy shifts sharply around certain people. That is why heaviness can settle on you without a visible reason. It is not always weakness. It is not always burnout in the ordinary sense. Sometimes it is spiritual activity. There were nights when you lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling something in the atmosphere, but not knowing how to describe it. That was not always anxiety. There were moments when prayer rose up in you suddenly, urgently, and you did not even know what you were praying about. That was not coincidence. There were times when you felt overwhelmed, but the moment you cried out to God, peace came rushing in. Was that just relief? Or was that your spirit reconnecting with its source? I remember knowing someone years ago who could walk into a room and feel the emotional weight of everyone there before a single conversation began. People thought she was dramatic. She was not dramatic. She was discerning. I have watched people like that carry invisible loads for years because nobody taught them how spiritual sensitivity works. And I have watched public figures go through something similar in a different form. Think about someone like Tyler Perry, a man who endured deep rejection, instability, and pain, yet carried a kind of inner endurance that outlived what tried to break him. Some people call that grit alone. I think grace was involved. I think heaven strengthened certain people because of what they are called to carry. The truth is, you have always felt different because you are different. While others live only by what they can touch, measure, prove, and post online, you have been living with spiritual awareness since childhood. You could read the room. You knew when someone was not genuine. You sensed danger before it appeared. You felt when someone was hurting even if they smiled and said they were fine. Psalm 25 says, "The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him." That means God shares things with certain hearts that stay close enough to recognize his whisper. Does that not explain some of what your life has felt like? You are not imagining this. Your spirit has been trained, sharpened, and strengthened through every battle you survived. You have been carrying things others never had to carry. You have been lifting spiritual weight that many people around you do not even believe exists. That is why your battles felt heavier. That is why your struggles often lasted longer. That is why heartbreak cut so deep. And still, you endured. Not because your flesh was always strong, but because your spirit refused to break. There is something in you that kept standing watch when other people would have shut down completely. God put a warrior inside you, a watchman, an intercessor, a protector. You do not just move through life casually. You guard it. You discern it. You feel beneath the surface of it. You walk through this world with a depth that many people will never understand. And yes, that depth has cost you. It has made life heavier at times. It has made relationships more complicated. It has made you feel lonely in rooms full of people. But it is also the reason you are still here. The same sensitivity that made some seasons harder is also the reason God kept using you in ways you did not fully see. And now heaven is revealing the truth more clearly. Your spirit has been carrying you even on the days you could not carry yourself. Your exhaustion was never proof of defeat. It was evidence that something in you was doing more than your natural mind understood. No wonder your journey has felt intense. No wonder ordinary explanations never fully fit. No wonder you have spent years feeling like there was something larger going on beneath the surface of your life. There was. And if this is finally breaking through the fog for you, if you are starting to understand why your path has felt so weighty, so unusual, so spiritually intense, then click the like button right now, not as a mindless habit, but as a marker, a moment of agreement, a way of saying, yes, I receive this truth about who I am. That matters. It matters for you, and it matters for the chosen ones still scrolling through life half awake, still trying to explain away what heaven has been revealing. Let this moment count. Let your response carry weight. Let your agreement rise. Chosen one, let me tell you something that may finally explain the strange heaviness you have carried for most of your life. Not every battle you felt was yours. Not every sadness that hit you came from your own story. There were waves of grief that rolled in when nothing around you seemed wrong. There were moments fear touched your chest out of nowhere. Even when the room was calm, the day looked normal, and life on the surface gave you no obvious reason to feel disturbed. Have you ever sat there wondering, why do I feel this when nothing has even happened yet? I know that feeling more than I can explain. You were not losing your mind. Your spirit was stepping into conflict before it showed up in the natural. You were sensing warfare connected to people around you, to places you were in, to burdens heaven allowed you to feel because your inner life was never ordinary. That may sound too deep for some people, but I have lived long enough to know not everything can be explained by mood, personality, or stress. Some people only read what is visible. Some of you have been reading what is spiritual your whole life. Your spirit is sensitive because it was designed that way. You have known things before they happened. You have felt people's intentions before they revealed themselves. You have sensed a shift in the room before anyone else noticed it. That was not paranoia. That was discernment. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 talks about the discerning of spirits as one of the gifts God gives, and some of you have been carrying pieces of that gift long before you had language for it. Did people call you too sensitive, too intense, too watchful? Maybe they did. But what if they were criticizing the very thing heaven had placed inside you for protection? Because of that gift, God often positioned you like a shield in places where other people were exposed. Your presence alone blocked attacks that others never even knew were near. You stood between your family and patterns that could have destroyed generations. You prayed storms away from people who did not even believe prayer mattered. You covered hearts that never knew how to cover yours. And yes, that leaves a mark. I have seen this in real life. I have known people who walked into families full of chaos and somehow became the one person who held the emotional roof up, even while nobody thanked them for it. Some of you have lived exactly like that. The enemy came after you not simply because of who you are outwardly, but because removing you would have exposed people you were silently protecting. Your spirit has been absorbing pressure that would have crushed other people. That is why the anxiety never always matched your circumstances. That is why heaviness showed up without a clear reason. That is why you felt drained on days when, by natural standards, nothing major even happened. You were interceding. You were intercepting. You were fighting in ways the natural mind cannot easily measure. Ezekiel chapter 22 speaks of standing in the gap, and I think many chosen ones have been doing that without even realizing it. Doesn't that explain why you have felt responsible for things nobody ever assigned to you? You have carried the weight of other people's unspoken pain. You felt grief before loved ones told you what happened. You sensed betrayal before the knife ever touched your back. You picked up the cry of someone miles away and did not understand why your heart felt broken in the middle of the night. That was not imagination. That was not drama. Your spirit was doing what God formed it to do. It was listening carefully. It was standing watch. It was picking up what most people sleep through. Psalm 121 says, "He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep." And I have often wondered whether people like you feel so much because, in a smaller human way, God lets your spirit stay alert in seasons when others are unaware. The enemy did not attack you because of who you look like in the natural. He attacked you because of who you are in the spirit. Your prayers disrupt darkness. Your presence changes atmospheres. Your spirit carries authority hell recognizes. That is why your life has felt like a battlefield at times. You are not only fighting for yourself, and I know that sounds weighty, but if you are one of those people who has always felt like life came at you harder than it came at others, doesn't some part of you already know this is true? Why would the warfare be that intense if there were nothing significant inside you? So, take a breath with me and really hear this. You survived things that should have shattered you. You walked through seasons that would have left many people in pieces. You endured heartbreak that could have closed your heart forever. You faced betrayal that should have turned you bitter. You stood in storms that had enough force to drown your faith, and yet you are still here. Not only standing, but growing, awakening, rising. Isaiah chapter 43 says, "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee." Not if, when. That verse has always hit me hard because it reminds me that being chosen does not mean you avoid the flood. It means God does not let the flood have the last word. You did not just make it through those years. You changed in the fire. The pain that tried to bury you became the ground where God planted strength. The betrayal that tried to harden you became part of the process that purified your heart. The loneliness that tried to isolate you became the place where God revealed himself more clearly than ever before. I have seen that pattern in my own life too. Some of the clearest moments I have ever had with God did not happen in easy seasons. They happened when everything looked stripped down, when the road ahead felt quiet, when all I could do was keep driving, keep praying, keep listening, and trust that God was saying something deeper than what my eyes could see. You did not just survive those battles. You pulled lessons out of them. Every wound became wisdom. Every tear watered something. Every moment you wanted to quit but kept going anyway added another layer of spiritual authority to your life. James chapter 1 says that the testing of your faith produces endurance. That is not just poetry. That is lived reality. Haven't there been moments when you looked back and realized the version of you now could carry what the older version of you never could? That is why the enemy fought you so hard. That is why your storm stretched longer than other people's. That is why opposition came from people you loved and from battles nobody around you could even see. Hell knew what heaven had placed inside you. Hell saw your future and attacked your present. Hell recognized the magnitude of your calling and threw everything it could at you to break you before you fully woke up. But here is what darkness never accounts for correctly. It never measures God accurately. God was not just letting you survive. He was rebuilding you from the inside out. He was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, deeper, more discerning, more compassionate, more spiritually sharp, and more emotionally whole than you could have become without that fire. Romans chapter 8 says that all things work together for good to them that love God. And I know people quote that verse casually sometimes, but when you have actually lived through devastation and watched God pull purpose out of it, that verse stops sounding generic. It starts sounding personal. You did not lose yourself in those battles. You found yourself there. The version of you that entered those storms is not the same version coming out. That old version had to break so the real you could emerge. The chosen you, the anointed you, the you heaven always saw. What the enemy meant for destruction, God turned into construction. Joseph said in Genesis, "Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good." That was true in his life, and it is true in yours. The enemy touched your story, but he did not own the ending. And yet, for a long time, you may have mistaken your survival version for your real identity. The guarded you, the quiet you, the strong but exhausted you, the overthinking you, the isolated you. Those were not your deepest identity. Those were temporary versions of you your spirit stepped into, so you could make it through seasons that were trying to break you. I think a lot of chosen ones do this. They confuse coping patterns with calling. They think the armor is the person. But armor is not identity. Armor is what you wore while healing. And now, heaven is saying that season is ending. That version of you served its purpose, but it is not where God wants you to live forever. Now it is time to meet the real you. You are not the pain you endured. You are the purpose God placed in you. You are not the wounds people left behind. You are the healing God promised. You are not the rejection that scarred you. You are the acceptance of heaven that covers you. 1 Peter chapter 2 says, "Ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people, not discarded, chosen, not random, set apart." For too long, you have looked at yourself through the lens of what happened to you, instead of through the eyes of the one who created you. Life handed you names like broken, alone, too much, not enough, forgotten, used, invisible. But heaven has never called you by those names. Heaven's language over you sounds different. Chosen, anointed, protected, redeemed, strengthened, appointed. Which voice have you been believing more lately? The voice of what hurt you or the voice of the God who formed you? Other people only saw the temporary version of you, the version walking with a limp, the version carrying wounds, the version staying quiet to avoid one more conflict, the version hiding light so others would feel comfortable around you. They judged you by the chapter God was healing, not the story he was writing. They saw scars, but not your calling. They heard silence, but not your prayers. They misread your isolation, not realizing that some of it was divine separation. They thought you were weak, when really God was rebuilding you in hidden places. That happens all the time in this generation. Society is obsessed with public image, instant clarity, and polished outcomes. But God still does some of his deepest work where nobody can label it correctly. God is lifting false identities off of you. The anger was not the deepest you. The numbness was not the deepest you. The distrust was not the deepest you. The fear was not the deepest you. Those were reactions. Human responses to spiritual battles. Temporary armor in seasons when you did not feel safe. But now, God is restoring the heart beneath the armor. He is peeling back the layers of survival and revealing the identity he placed in you from the beginning. Because who you really are is someone heaven recognizes even when the world does not. You are chosen, and your true identity is waking up now. And before I go any further, let me say something plainly. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, today is the day to do it. When you hit subscribe and turn on notifications, you are not just following content. You are making room to keep receiving words that speak directly to chosen ones, walking through this kind of awakening. These messages are here to stir, strengthen, and confirm what God is already doing in you. Don't miss the next word. because you stayed disconnected. Click subscribe, turn on the bell, and let that be your way of saying, I am staying aligned with what heaven is awakening in me. Chosen one, lean into this moment with your whole heart, because what I'm saying to you now is not just meant to make you feel better for a few minutes. It is revelation, and I do not use that word casually. I think we live in a time where people are flooded with motivation, flooded with noise, flooded with content, but still starving for truth. This is different. You are stepping into a season where God is peeling back every layer life laid over your identity, every false version of you that pain, survival, disappointment, and other people's opinions tried to make permanent for a long time. You have seen yourself through fogged glass. You kept moving, kept functioning, kept showing up, but deep down there were parts of you that felt uncertain, buried, hard to recognize. Have you ever looked at your own life and thought, I know there is more in me than this, but I cannot fully reach it yet? I think many chosen ones know that feeling. You sense greatness, but it feels covered. You feel purpose, but it feels muted. And now, little by little, heaven is clearing your vision. God is about to show you the real you, the one that was there before the pressure, before the heartbreak, before the labels, before the expectations people placed on your shoulders. This next part of your life is not really about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who God designed before the world started naming you, according to your womb. Jeremiah says that before you were formed in the womb, God knew you. Think about that for a second. Before life touched you, God knew you. Before trauma tried to reduce you, God knew you. Before people misunderstood you, God knew you. So maybe the deepest question is not, who am I becoming? Maybe it is, who did God say I was before all this dust settled on me? The real you is stronger than the storms you survived. The real you carries wisdom you did not study for, because some wisdom only comes from walking with God through fire and coming out with your heart still open. The real you is spiritually sharp, discerning, and deeply connected to heaven. The real you is compassionate without being easy to drain, bold without becoming harsh, loving without surrendering boundaries, humble without hiding in the background. I have watched people in this generation confuse softness with weakness and loudness with strength, but I do not agree with that. Some of the strongest people I have ever seen were quiet, prayerful, grounded, and impossible to manipulate because they finally knew who they were. God is waking up the version of you that trauma dimmed and disappointment silenced. He is calling forward the you that hell hoped you would never fully discover. Because once you know who you are, darkness loses leverage. That is why identity matters so much. That is why the enemy fights clarity so hard. When Jesus was baptized, before he performed miracles, before the public ministry, heaven spoke identity first and said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Identity came before visible impact, and I think many of you are in that kind of moment right now. Heaven is dealing with who you are before the next doors open. That is also why you have been feeling different lately, shifted, uncomfortable with things that used to hold your attention. Why does certain conversation feel empty now? Why does drama wear you out faster than before? Why do shallow connections feel harder to tolerate? Why has your spirit been craving peace, truth, depth, and stillness more than noise, excitement, and surface-level validation? That is not you becoming cold. That is not you becoming strange. That is the real you resurfacing. That is your soul returning to alignment. Romans says not to be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Sometimes that renewal feels like loss before it feels like freedom. And let me say this carefully. If all the audience sees while I'm talking is the road moving behind me, city lights passing, ordinary streets still doing what they do not mistake this setting for the message. I'm just driving and talking with you through the middle of real life, because that is where God has a way of meeting people now, in the middle of errands, fatigue, traffic, pressure, and ordinary hours that suddenly become sacred. I have had some of my clearest moments with God in places that looked completely unremarkable on the outside. That is one reason I do not underestimate simple moments anymore. God is separating you from anything that drains your identity and connecting you to what awakens your purpose. That is why some people, habits, environments, and even ambitions do not fit the same way anymore. This is not loss in the way you feared. It is pruning. Jesus said in John chapter 15 that the Father prunes the branches that bear fruit so they can bear more. Pruning does not feel pleasant while it is happening, but it is still love. This is not isolation in the empty sense. It is preparation. This is not abandonment. It is repositioning. Haven't you noticed that some things had to fall away before you could hear God more clearly? And hear me on this too. God is about to uncover gifts in you that you did not fully know were there. Clarity is coming. Spiritual authority is rising. Your discernment is sharpening. Your peace is getting stronger. Your sensitivity to the Holy Spirit is increasing. And no, I am not saying your life will suddenly become effortless. I am saying you are about to move differently in it. James says that if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously. Some of you are about to discover that what you have been asking for is already starting to grow inside you. You will know what to say in moments you used to fear. You will sense what is right without forcing it. You will walk away from what is wrong faster. You will stop doubting the holy nudge you keep feeling. Doors will open that you did not spend all your energy trying to force. Opportunities will find you that you did not have to chase in desperation. The right people will be drawn to the light in you without fully understanding why. I have seen this in my own life enough times to respect it. When God starts bringing your inner life into order, the outer life begins to shift in ways that look almost strange to other people. It is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is simply that things start finding you because you finally stopped hiding who God made you to be. You are going to begin seeing yourself the way heaven has seen you all along. Chosen, capable, worthy, assigned, and covered. Not perfect, but covered. Not finished, but chosen. Not louder than everyone else, but marked. 1 Peter calls you a chosen generation and a royal priesthood. That is not small language. That is heaven's vocabulary. So why keep describing yourself with the names pain gave you when God has already spoken something better? Why keep shrinking to fit spaces God has already outgrown for you? The real you is emerging now. And once that unveiling begins, you will not be able to comfortably reduce yourself again just to keep other people comfortable. You will not be able to keep playing small in rooms where God has called you to rise. You will not be able to pretend you are ordinary once heaven starts confirming what has always been resting on your life. That does not mean pride. It means agreement. It means finally standing where God has been calling you to stand. This is your season of spiritual revealing. Your divine identity is stepping into the light. And I think that is why this moment feels weighty to you. maybe even a little emotional, maybe even a little unsettling. Something in you knows this is true. Something in you recognizes that God is not just comforting you. He is uncovering you. He is bringing the real you back into view. And once you truly see what He placed inside you, how could you ever go back to living as a blurred version of yourself again? Before I speak this prophetic declaration over you, I want you to do one more thing. And I want you to do it with intention. Share this message, but do not send it out carelessly like people send everything else these days. Send it to the one person who kept coming to your mind while I was talking. You know who that is. The one carrying weight nobody sees. The one smiling in public and unraveling in private. The one whose spirit has been fighting battles they do not even have words for yet. Why did that person come to mind now if heaven was not pressing on something deeper? When you share this, you are not just forwarding another video into somebody's phone. You are extending a lifeline to another warrior who may be tired of fighting alone. Galatians says to bear one another's burdens, and I think we forget how holy that can look in ordinary life. Sometimes it is not dramatic. Sometimes it is one message, one act of obedience, one moment where you stop scrolling long enough to reach for somebody God places on your heart. I have learned not to ignore those nudges anymore. Too many times, what felt small in the moment turned out to be exactly what somebody needed. Click share right now. Send it to that one person. Let God use your obedience to wake somebody else up. And as you sit with everything that has been spoken over your spirit today, I want you to notice something sacred. This moment is not random. It is not background noise. It is not just another voice passing through your day while the world keeps moving outside, while the streets keep passing by my window, while traffic lights change and life looks ordinary on the surface. No, this is more than that. This is a divine appointment. I really believe heaven has been preparing you for this unveiling. You did not come this far, endure this much, and survive this many silent seasons for this moment to mean nothing. What if this is one of those moments you will look back on later and realize it marked a turning point? So whether you lift your hands, close your eyes, sit quietly, or simply keep listening, while these words settle deep into you, receive this with your whole spirit. You have walked through too much. You have endured too much. You have prayed too hard and cried too many quiet tears for this not to carry weight. God is not only comforting you here, He is speaking identity over you. He is doing what He did again and again in Scripture, calling people by who they really were before the world had a chance to reduce them. Before Gideon saw himself as strong, heaven called him a mighty man of valor. Before Jeremiah thought he was ready, God said He had known him before he was formed. Before Peter understood what he would become, Jesus still spoke to the rock inside him. Doesn't that tell you something about how God works? He speaks to the real you before the real you is fully visible to anyone else. In the mighty name of Jesus, I declare that every hidden strength inside you is rising to the surface now. What once felt dormant will become active. What once felt unclear will become illuminated. What once felt buried under disappointment, exhaustion, confusion, and delay will begin to breathe again. I declare that discernment is sharpening in you. Wisdom is rising in you. Peace is deepening in you. Compassion is being purified in you. Boldness is growing in you. And the gifts God planted in you will not stay buried under survival mode any longer. As Paul told Timothy to stir up the gift of God within him, I believe heaven is stirring up what has been sleeping inside you too. I declare that the weight you have carried for years, that heaviness that sat on your shoulders, and followed you through seasons you could not explain is breaking off your spirit right now. Not slowly, not vaguely, but truly. 2 Corinthians says that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. So I declare liberty over your mind, liberty over your heart, liberty over your inner world. You are stepping into a freedom that will feel unfamiliar at first because you have carried tension for so long. Freedom from old wounds, freedom from old fear, freedom from old identities, freedom from the exhausting pressure to be who pain taught you to become. I declare that every generational burden you carried, whether you understood it or not, is being lifted by the hand of God. Cycles that ran through your bloodline will stop with you. Patterns that swallowed others will not swallow you. Destruction that moved from house to house will lose its right to continue through your life. Exodus says, God shows mercy unto thousands of them that love him. And I believe mercy is overtaking your story even now. What tried to pass through your family as an inheritance will not define your future. What broke others will not have the final word over you. You are not just surviving patterns. By the grace of God, you are becoming the interruption. I declare that every attack sent to break you will be turned into a testimony that strengthens you. What the enemy meant for harm, God will still use for good, just as Joseph said. The betrayal will not waste you. The delay will not erase you. The pressure will not crush you. The warfare will not cancel what God spoke. It will refine you. It will reveal you. It will teach your hands to war and your heart to remain soft before God. Haven't you already seen hints of that in your own life? Weren't there seasons that should have destroyed you, and yet somehow you came out deeper, wiser, and more awake than before? And I declare that every blessing with your name on it, every open door, every divine connection, every breakthrough, every answered prayer, every opportunity appointed by God will find you with clarity and precision. You will not miss what heaven has ordained for you. You will not lose what God has sealed. Isaiah says that what God opens, no man can shut, and what he shuts, no man can open. So, I declare that confusion will not make you miss your door. Fear will not make you run from your assignment. Delay will not make you doubt your calling. You will recognize what is from God. You will have the courage to walk through it. You will not have to beg for what God has already decided to release. I declare that your spirit is coming into alignment with heaven in a deeper way than ever before. Your hearing will become clearer. Your peace will become stronger. Your boundaries will become healthier. Your love will become wiser. Your mind will no longer be a battleground every single day. The Holy Spirit will teach you what to carry and what to release. And the version of you that has been buried under fatigue, grief, and old survival habits will not stay hidden much longer. The real you, the chosen you, the anointed you is coming forward. Receive this, chosen one, not as pretty words, not as temporary emotion. Receive it as truth. Let it settle. Let it root. Let it confront the lies you have believed about yourself for too long. Heaven is not confused about who you are. God is not uncertain about what He placed inside you. And the same God who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. Now, stay still for a moment and let that land. And if this prayer is for you, if your spirit is saying yes to what heaven is speaking, type "I receive" in the comments, and let that be your agreement with this declaration over your life. And this is where I want to leave you, chosen one. Not with fear, not with pressure, not with the feeling that you have to prove something overnight. I want to leave you with clarity. You were never ordinary. You were never forgotten. You were never just too sensitive, too intense, too different, or too hard to understand. A lot of what this world tried to label as weakness was actually the evidence of a spirit carrying more than most people could see. And personally, I think that is one of the saddest things about the time we are living in. We live in a generation that can recognize popularity faster than purity, noise faster than wisdom, performance faster than presence. So when someone like you comes along, someone deep, discerning, spiritually awake, and hard to manipulate, people often misread you before they ever truly see you. But heaven has seen you clearly the whole time. That matters to me. It really does. Because I have watched so many people spend years apologizing for the very traits God meant to use. I have watched people shrink their voice, numb their discernment, laugh off their calling, and dilute their convictions just to fit into rooms that were never built for them. Maybe you have done that too. Maybe you got tired of being the one who feels more, sees more, carries more. Maybe part of you started wishing you could be simpler, lighter, less aware, but that was never your assignment. You were not created to be easily absorbed by the spirit of this age. You were created to stay awake in it. And that is why I believe this message matters so much. You are entering a season where God is not only healing what hurt you, He is uncovering who you really are beneath all of it, beneath the survival mode, beneath the exhaustion, beneath the heartbreak, beneath the old names life pinned on you. The real you is still there. The chosen you, the anointed you, the you that heaven recognized before this world ever tried to redefine you. So, as this moment comes to a close, I want you to carry this with you. Stop measuring yourself by what broke around you. Stop defining yourself by the chapters where you were still bleeding. Stop assuming your hidden battles meant you were falling behind. Some of your deepest formation happened in silence. Some of your greatest strengthening happened where nobody clapped for you. Some of the holiest work God ever did in your life happened in seasons that looked empty to everybody else. That is not failure. That is consecration. And I will tell you one more thing from my heart. I do not believe you clicked on this message by accident. And I do not believe you stayed this long by accident either. Even with the road moving, the city passing, and the outside world doing what it always does, something deeper has been happening between these words and your spirit. This was never about the street in the background. This was about God meeting you in the middle of your real life, right where you are, right in the middle of your questions, your fatigue, your hope, your becoming. So now, the question is not whether God has placed something inside you. The question is whether you will finally agree with Him about who you are. If this message spoke to you, comment, "I am chosen" below. I want that to be more than a phrase. Let it be your agreement. Let it be your line in the ground. And if you know someone else who has been carrying silent, spiritual weight, share this with them too. You may be sending confirmation at the exact moment they need it most. And subscribe if you want to keep walking through these messages with me, because I truly believe there are more chosen ones waking up in this season, and you do not need to go through that awakening alone. Wherever you are right now, take a breath and remember this: you are not too much, you are not behind, you are not disqualified, you are not lost in the eyes of God. You are seen, you are covered, you are being called higher, and the real you is finally coming into the light.